I'm very pleased to invite Nadya Mamoozadeh to the stage to talk about iCatch, which incorporates genomics and AI to make species identification possible. So please, Nadya, join us on the stage. Let's give her a big hand.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for that introduction, Bubba. As Bubba said, I'm Nadya Mamoozadeh. I'm a senior scientist at Michigan State University, and I'm also a co-founder of iCatch. So I'm going to be sharing with you about iCatch today and our work to integrate genomics and AI to make species identification possible from point of capture to the marketplace. I wanted to acknowledge my other co-founders, Nahar Mahapatra, Shannon O'Leary, who's also here today at the conference, Dave Portnoy, and Mariah Meek. So we all know, being in the fisheries and seafood space, that accurate species identification is really fundamental to allow sustainable fisheries management. And this is for many reasons, including the need to have accurate species identification to allow for accurate monitoring of stock status, to be able to set reliable or informed catch limits, to enforce protective regulations, protect biodiversity, and allow consumers to make informed decisions, among other factors that I'm sure we're all familiar with. Similarly, we also know that many species can be difficult to distinguish by eye. And this includes marine species that are targeted in wild capture fisheries, either as targeted catch or bycatch. And just one of the many examples that I'll give you are Thunus tunas that can be difficult to quickly distinguish from one another at their juvenile football-sized life history stages. And so these difficult to identify species make sustainable fisheries management challenging at all steps of the seafood supply chain. And this starts on the water, where fisheries observers, as well as the fishers themselves, need to know what species they are bringing onto deck, again, either as targeted catch or bycatch. This information need then moves into port, where port authorities need to be able to verify the identity of species that are being brought into port. Law enforcement programs, officers who need to be able to identify species to enforce existing protective regulations, and even buyers and retailers who need to know that the money they're paying for a particular species is actually what they think they're paying for. And on the flip side, having accurate information on the species that they're marketing to consumers. And so it's clear that a major need is fast and accurate species identification technology that can be used in diverse fishery settings, whether that's on boats, at ports, or in stores. And this is where iCatch comes in. iCatch is a smart species identification technology that leverages both genomics and artificial intelligence, AI, to allow users to conduct both visual and genetic species identification. And so iCatch consists of two integrated components. One component is a smartphone app that uses AI to allow users to visually identify species from user-supplied photos. And so this works very similarly to other AI-assisted species identification smartphone apps that are available, such as iNaturalist. The other element of iCatch are rapid genomic test kits, and these are prepackaged kits that allow users to genetically identify species from swab samples, much like a home test for COVID-19. And these tests work with DNA, so anything that has DNA, whether it's a whole fish, a fin, or a fillet, is compatible with this genetic species identification methodology. And these two elements of iCatch are integrated, meaning that both these visual and genetic species identification capabilities are brought to the point of need, bringing these sources of information to the palm of your hand. Okay, so I just wanted to walk you through how the iCatch species identification process works. The first step is to take your phone out, open the smartphone app, and take a picture of whatever fish it is that you're trying to identify. And the app is powered by AI models to conduct that visual species identification. So let's say you have a tuna in front of you and you think it's a big eye, but you're not 100% sure, and you want to use iCatch to conduct visual species identification. The app will trigger that process and return to you a species prediction with a level of confidence. That level of confidence, the threshold that's needed, can be tuned by the user. So for example, if you're a consumer and you just want to know that you're paying for big eye and that's what you're actually getting, maybe 70% confidence would be enough for you. And in that case, you're good with your visual identification result. You can close the app and move on with your day. If, for example, you're a law enforcement officer, that 70% confidence is probably not high enough for you. In that case, what the app would do is guide you into the genetic testing component of iCatch. So I'm going to walk you into that genetic testing part next, which looks like this. The app will tell you which rapid genetic test kit to grab. You open up that kit, pull out a swab, and take a swab sample, much like a COVID test. That swab sample picks up DNA from whatever specimen you're testing, and then you add that swab to a tube that contains prepackaged reagents. And then you take those reagents, which now have the DNA sample introduced to them, and you add that to a test cartridge. And this test cartridge allows for a color change reaction to occur where you get a positive development if the target species is present. And this looks very similar to home test for COVID-19. You would get a band developing in the control region of the cartridge to let you know that the test is working. And if the target species is present, then you get a band in the test area of the strip to let you know you've got a positive test. And then the final step of this species identification process is where we integrate both the genomic and artificial intelligence capabilities of iCatch. And users take a photo of their genomic test result, and with their permission, that gets uploaded to the cloud, where it's used to then update and inform the AI model. And so in this way, we're using our genomic information to allow continual learning and improvement of the visual identification capabilities of iCatch. So just to kind of summarize what iCatch does, it really brings these visual and genetic testing capabilities to users at their point of need. This species identification process can happen very quickly. If visual identification is successful, it happens in near real time. If you need to conduct the rapid genetic test, that can happen in under 30 minutes. In addition to that, it's highly accurate. We're using both the visual as well as the paired contextual and genetic information to make these IDs. It's easy to use. We're all familiar with using a smartphone app to take photos. We're all, as Bubba mentioned, unfortunately familiar with how to use a home test for COVID-19. And both of these factors have reduced the barriers to entry for using iCatch technology. These factors also make iCatch very field ready. You don't need any specialized equipment. You don't have to be a geneticist to conduct the rapid genetic tests. You simply need your smartphone, which the app also works offline, and your test kit, bring it into the field, and you're good to go, meaning it can be used in many different fisheries settings. And then finally, it's cost effective. The visual identification component of iCatch acts to minimize the amount of genetic testing that needs to be done, and the genetic tests themselves are much cheaper than traditional DNA sequencing technologies that have been used for genetic species identification. So what species are we developing iCatch technology for? We have a priority list of applications in the fisheries and seafood space. We've developed iCatch for Atlantic salmon. We're currently developing it for species of Pacific salmon. We're thinking here about seafood substitution, mislabeling. In the US, farmed Atlantic salmon is one of the most commonly substituted seafood products because you can take a cheaper product, market it as a wild-caught, more expensive product. We're also developing iCatch for species of Thunus tunas, which we know are the target of fisheries across the globe. We're thinking about high conservation need species, sharks, including Sphyrna hammerhead sharks, other pelagic shark species. An additional application here is the fin market and markets for other shark parts. Another species group that we're thinking about and currently developing capability for are mobula rays, a high conservation need species, the group of species. There are other species I don't have time to talk about today, and we're also open to new ideas. So if your favorite species is not on here, you have a high need for it, feel free to talk to me. Shannon, who's also I mentioned here, and yeah, we're always looking for new ideas. So I just wanted to wrap up by acknowledging our network of partners and stakeholders who have been really critical to the development of our technology. These include NGOs, agencies at the federal state level in the US, RFMOs, industry partners, who have really been essential to soliciting feedback on our iCatch idea, driving the design, ultimately so that we can make a product that is usable, easy to use, whether you're a law enforcement officer or fishery observer, and also useful, so the applications that have the highest impact in species identification challenges. And so with that, I'll just close with this information. Our website, if you'd like to learn more about us, is at the top. Our email address is in the middle there, and we're also on socials. And I'll just finish with our broader vision for iCatch, which is really just to make species identification at the point of need much more reliable and accessible, and really the overarching goal is to support ocean health. All right, thank you for your time.